Okay, time to deal with some more controlled opposition. This is the TradCon demi rep. She's going to try and defend Benny Hill. She's going to do a terrible job because she can't get the framing right. Right. I want to take a look at this photo. Do you recognize that young lady? That's the actress who played Daphne from the old Frasier show, right? So as you can see, this is very standard. Women use their sex appeal to get careers in TV and movies, and then men get bashed for watching those, right? So the double standards are everywhere. Anyway, let's hear Demi rap.
There's an article here in the Telegraph saying Benny Hill was born 100 years ago today. What do 3 generations make of him now? So what they're doing is they're whipping up an article about Benny Hill. And can you guess the sort of attitudes you're going to find from a post-Benny Hill's generation?
To be honest, Demi rep, the same attitude that my generation had, and your generation, if you're a little older than me. Women were calling men pigs in the 1970s. Second wave feminist. The only thing that's changed now is that women's hatred for men and contempt for men is out in the open, and it's cranked up to 11, but it's always been there.
Well, I'll leave you guessing while I tell you that I'm Grannyopteryx.
Well, let's get past her promos. There we are.
Shows Benny Hill with a conspiratorial leer on his face as he is carrying, it's obviously a fireman, and he's carrying a young woman to safety, but getting a bit of a thrill out of it as well. If you look at that picture, you see the situation is consensual.
It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. There's all kinds of comedy that involves lack of consent. So this is not an argument, a framing you should be using, Demi rep. It's that simple.
I think that's the most important thing about
Here, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, here it is here. This is an old skit from Saturday Night Live where Chris Farley played a soldier that was sexually assaulted by aliens, right? There's no consent here. That's the joke. And that was all right with everybody. Anyone who brings up the skit, everybody will be all right with it. So it doesn't matter about consent.
Benny Hill jokes. They are all consensual. In most cases, the girls are just leading him along and he ends up taking pratfalls over it.
Again, it's not necessary. Consent's not necessary for comedy.
Because they're making fun of him. They are using their youth and beauty and feminine charms, of which they are fully aware, to make a fool of the...
Yeah, this is poor argumentation. Sorry, Demi rep. The only thing you should be saying is men like this, and they should be allowed to view it. That's it. What you're seeing here, because you don't want to, admit female nature, is that women just don't want to see men contented. That's it. This is a fight against male contentment. These women hate men, and men don't like other men either. That's why they're on board. That's why these articles are written by men as well.
The little men who are always trying to chase them and never quite making it. It's a joke on him, not on the women. Most of it is very funny.
Also, it doesn't matter if he should be able to make jokes on women. Let me show you another thing here. Here's Charlie Chaplin making Hitler the butt of his joke, right? Why is he doing that? Because Hitler is against him as a human being. So he's allowed to ridicule Hitler. And men, by rights, should be allowed to ridicule women because women, as a sex, are attacking men. Your video is about it. The Me Too movement is women attacking men. Second wave feminist attacking men. Men have been under assault by the female gender for generations, actually since human beings have been human beings, but especially in modern times. Men have the complete right to make a show where all they do is ridicule women as a sex. We have the absolute right. Women are the class enemy of men, pure and simple, and men are allowed to view them as enemies, to be ridiculed. Thanks.
Sometimes it's not funny. That's what happens in comedy. Sometimes a joke just doesn't work. But saying that he's unacceptable simply because a couple of jokes don't work.
That's not what they're saying it. That's not what they're saying. Look, in my day, by the way, everyone, my father used to watch Benny Hill, and I just thought it was crass humor. Never made me laugh, right? It's just bad humor. But I still liked seeing the sexy girls in bikinis. So I liked it for that reason. A friend of mine at the time was only in his teens and he was into it. I felt like asking him, are you a middle-aged man or what? But the point I'm going to make is that in those days, there weren't gamers, right? There weren't people on the internet. Well, there was a whole generation of men that enjoyed this that you couldn't say were just gaming boys that weren't employed and needed to get out and touch grass, right? So all that talk about, guys, staying in their mother's basement, it's just an insult to men that are enjoying the stuff they like to enjoy, right?
That doesn't make any sense. But where do we get sense in this?
It makes perfect sense, lady. Once you realize that women just don't like men, it makes sense.
Modern environment. The sketch show, famous for slapstick and scantily clad women, is returning to British television this Christmas. We're just
Scantily clad women that men want to see. Exactly. That's it.
a minute, this Christmas. Is this really very old? I don't see, there's no date on here. Perhaps it meant the Christmas just gone. I'm sorry, but I just happened on this article. Maybe it's the upcoming Christmas though. After the Freeview channel, that's TV, brought the rights to the episodes amid rumours of interest from Netflix. But will it stand the test of time in the Me Too era?
Right, the Me Too era. That's the savage attack on men's freedom and well-being era. That's what Me Too is. So again, that's why I say men have the exact perfect right to make an entire show where all they do is ridicule women for being women. Because that is not the same as stripping women of their rights, which your generation is trying to do. I should say your gender is trying to do to mine.
3 writers of different ages watch with fresh eyes. Okay, so sit on the edge of your seats, people. We're going to hear some opinions about Benny Hill. This is Michael Hogan.
These aren't opinions. What they are is the guy's virtue signaling to women that he knows his place.
As a schoolboy, the slapsticks and silliness tickled me.
There you go. There it is in a nutshell. So in other words, he is admitting that this was completely all right and he liked it. But now the new generation isn't allowed to enjoy it. You know why? Because he doesn't like men. The average guy doesn't like his fellow man. He's willing to damage him and sacrifice him to virtual signal to women. That's what's going on here.
Right. Benny Hill was a big deal in my hometown. And not, okay, so apparently this guy says, what's his name? Michael Hogan, that Hill had a disabled friend in a care home, which he often visited. I was aware of his celebrity status. He used to come and visit this disabled friend and take him out in the wheelchair every so often. Oh, regularly, it says here. Sounds like a nice man. And, oh, God, crikey, what's, Frasier?
It doesn't matter if he was a nice man. This is not argumentation for men. Men don't want to have to say, I'm a perfectly good, nice person to live my life. There's all kinds of assholes out there that still have their rights as human beings. David Letterman, he was a complete asshole. He used to mock people on his shows all the time. He was a complete asshole. No one has a problem with him, right? So you don't need to be the nice guy to be considered, right?
The girl who played Niles in Amorata, I've forgotten her name. She was a Hills angel, and she said,
like I said, she used her sex appeal to get ahead. And now I'm not sure if she's doing it personally, but all kinds of women, these actresses, bash men after they're done, after they got what they wanted. That is female nature. Men give, women take, and then turn on the man. And that's why, again, I just want to point out again, that's why men have the exact perfect right to make entire shows where they ridicule female behavior.
He was incredibly helpful and respectful. And she really liked him.
Again, doesn't matter if he's respectful or not. David Letterman wasn't respectful to anybody. No one has a problem with him.
So he says, when I finally watched my first episode in the mid-70s, I found it hard to reconcile the shy, sheepish man who pushed a wheelchair along the seafront with...
Wow. Real life people aren't like the image they put on TV. Wow. Never heard of that before.
The larger-than-life figure that he saw on his television. To my schoolboy eyes, it didn't seem terribly different to other sketch comedies of the era. I knew there were gags I wasn't getting, double entendre which flew over my bowl-cutted head. It was the slapstick, wordplay and silliness that tickled me. Will I be tuning into its Christmas comeback? Possibly, when my own children are safely tucked up in bed, and only then to marvel at what once passed for primetime entertainment. I'd rather remember him as the devoted friend pushing a wheelchair.
So this guy really liked it when he was a kid. The next generation doesn't get to. Right? We're not allowed to. Male contentment isn't allowed. Demi rap.
So this is a man who used to enjoy it as a schoolboy, thought it was funny, and now is prepared to lock his kids away when it comes on the screen.
Not just his kids, his male kids. He does not want his boys to have the same freedom as he does. He doesn't want them to have the same self-respect or the same self-regard. He doesn't want them to have the same healthy psychology that he grew up with. That's how much men hate other men. This is his own male children, right?
And sit there being moral about it.
They're not moral. There's nothing moral about sexism. There's nothing moral about attacking other men to grovel towards the opposite sex. Nothing. It's as immoral as you can get it.
Michael Hogan, you're a hypocrite. Okay, let's go on with the next one. Guy Kelly. It was a different time, but let's hope they've hired an editor. So censorship here. Yeah?
If they hired an editor, the show couldn't show up. They would edit out all the women in bikinis, so the show would you just have a blank screen, right?
He understands it was a different time, but now we've got to edit stuff out of it. I just want to point something out. The generation who grew up with Benny Hill, have they all turned into a crowd of sex monsters?
No, they're the same as the new generation. No generation ever appreciated men or liked them. It's just that it's just become more severe now. That's it. Whatever's been there has augmented now.
No. I'll tell you who do appear to have turned into sex monsters. People who don't watch stuff like Benny Hill, like the Rotherham grooming gangs.
Okay, see, this woman, again, proof right here, she's controlled opposition. There are no grooming gangs. Because apparently the police couldn't arrest these guys. And they tried to say it was about, they're not allowed to look like racist. But the simple fact was they weren't guilty of anything. Young girls were attracted to the thugs, and the guys didn't groom them whatsoever. So she is painting another group of men as the bad guys. Look at them. Look at these foreign men. They're the bad guys, right? Again, controlled opposition.
I'll bet you they considered Benny Hill terribly immoral. That's just my guess, though. Maybe they watched it in secret at night. Okay, so he's giving his entire life history here, which I'm not interested in. Yesterday, but in fear and dread, yesterday, as I opened YouTube and shakily typed in the words, "The Benny Hill Show," I found myself gulping, shrinking the window, and preparing to blurt the words, "They asked me to watch it," at any and every bypasser. You bloody idiot. Oh, well, I don't know. Looking at that face, the words soy and boys suddenly popped into my mind.
I don't know why, because Michael Hogan that you showed earlier, he's a regular guy, right? And he's no more anti-male than this guy, or I should say no less, right? So it doesn't matter if the man's masculine or unmasculine or whatever. They're the same.
I can't think why. Anyway, right. Let's carry on. To my generation, he's simply that man who resembled Adam Bolton and scampered about honking the breasts of aghast, scantily clad young women to a jaunty saxophone tune. As a matter of fact, most of the women weren't aghast, were they?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't, where was that again? It doesn't matter if they were aghast or not. They were aghast, some of them were, again, but it doesn't matter because consent isn't necessary for comedy. This is a rape skit where male soldiers were sexually assaulted by aliens. People laughed. They found it funny. So it's not necessary, Demi Rep.
They were, fully enjoying the power they had. Still, I holstered my standard issue millennial cancellation gun and gave him the benefit of the doubt. The first sketch...
He didn't holster anything. He wants to stop Benny Hill. Why? Because he knows it. His show gives men pleasure.
She saw hinged on the...
And it also isn't flattering to women because it shows what women are about. Living life on easy mode by showing off their bodies. Women do that in real life and don't admit that that's what they do in real life.
Punchline that women start putting on weight as soon as they got married. The second, a Roy Orbison parody, featured a giddy impression of Jimmy Savile.
Oh, by the way, that one where the woman put on weight, what it's admitting is that the wives, the women who get married to men, don't like the men they're married to. They put on weight because they attracted the man through sex appeal. Soon as he's married and chained, then they can just do what they like. They've never were interested in making the man happy. They were interested in fooling him into thinking that they would make him happy. So that joke is very brutally true. That's why they're against that too.
And in the third, Hill blacked up. Now, this is the worst thing you can do, blacking up. Do you think he was actually making fun of, I don't know what sketch he was talking about, but do you think he was making fun of black people or of the attitude other people might have had to black?
This doesn't matter at all. Simply because it doesn't matter what Benny Hill does or didn't do. They're out to get him. We all know that this is harmless, comedy. Let's get past that.
A good silent gag about bank robbery. He's being generous here, isn't he? This Guy Kelly. And then one set in a library. Have you got a book called Men, the Superior Sex? The customer asks. You'll find it over there, the female librarian replies, under fiction.
So even back then, men were bashing each other in comedy. This is that line is making fun of men, and yet just the introduction of it is still too much for this young lady.
I think we generously call that hit and miss. If they insist on resurrecting it, let's hope they've hired an editor. No. Let's hope they edit you. The way he talks.
Well, finally, that's the proper attitude. Kick these disgusting man-haters out of positions of influence. Exactly. We don't have the KKK in charge of anything that's important. And the same with these hate mongers right here.
You'd think this was the worst thing that could happen to anybody to watch something like this. And as I said, the people who grew up with that were generally more respectful of women than they are now. The sort of...
Again, stop begging. They weren't more respectful of women then. And it wouldn't matter if they were or not.
Grief that J.K. Rowling is getting for being a woman and talking about trans women as not really women. And
there you go. This woman, Demi Rep, is just showing his true colors. J.K. Rowling is a full-blown feminist man-hater. She's a true blue subhuman. And that's who she's going to bring up as one of the good ones. And I got news for you, Demi Rep. The only reason she goes on about, trans women, not trans men, trans women not being real women, is that she doesn't want men to gain the privilege of women. That's what it is. It's you lowlifes know your place. And that's what that's all about. So once Demi Rep brought this woman up in a positive light, this disgusting J.K. Rowling type, she's actually opposed to you as a man.
And others who've said the same thing. The sort of thing they're getting from the new woke generation.
Uses the word woke. There you go. Perfect tradcon. These are feminist. I bet this woman's a feminist. J.K. Rowling definitely is, and she hates men with a passion. So she's misframing it on purpose, trying to play feminist man hate onto another word. She's using another word to obscure it. Okay, that's as far as we need to go. Demi Rep, you've been called out. I know what you are. And please don't pretend that you're on men's side. Because I don't accept it. I don't accept you. Thank you.